Before we begin the video, I'd like to offer a disclaimer. Some of the illnesses that we're going to discuss today may not be directly recognized by the DSM-5 as a standalone diagnosis, but may fall under other, more overarching categories as a symptom. This can make them a bit harder to treat singularly, often causing them to appear untreatable, when, in reality, treating an overarching condition can lead to their mitigation or cessation. The information cited in today's project was last updated in the year 2023. Please avoid taking any of today's diagnoses and applying them to yourself without the assistance of a professional. Thank you and enjoy the project. Hi everyone, my name is Miles, and today I'm going to be sharing with you 5 scary mental disorders that you may not have heard of. From a condition that causes sufferers to eat themselves, to a delusion that makes your brain believe that you no longer exist. We're here to categorize 5 of the most unbearable, odd, and horrifying mental disorders that you've never heard of. So join me, gather your empathy, and let's get into it. Number 1. AutoCannibalism, or autosarcophagy. While this condition is not recognized as a mental illness via DSM-5 standards, its presence in society is farther reaching than many like to consider. Patients with this disorder engage in eating parts of themselves, being affected by a unique compulsion that urges them to continue this practice despite the threat it often poses. On the lower end of the spectrum, you may have people who bite off bits of their own nails, ingest discharge from their nose, and chew on dead skin or cuticles when they appear. However, on the more intense end, you can encounter people who eat their own scabs, drink their own blood, consume their own hair, feast on dead or dying skin, and can even become interested in the intake of their own bodily fluids. This disorder closely mimics OCD, in that it is normally characterized by low impulse control, and can often be linked to periods of extreme anxiety or depression when the impulse is not properly appeased. Treatment for this sort of disorder is normally comprised of behavioral therapy, such as cognitive behavioral therapy or aversion therapy. It's noted that people who misuse medications or have a personal or family history of psychosis are at a far greater risk for developing this disorder. And often enough, in those situations, frightening hallucinations can become part of the experience. This condition can become especially dangerous if the wounds caused by the sufferer become infected or aren't cleaned properly. Therefore, it's a formidable condition that deserves recognition in today's lineup. Number 2. Alice in Wonderland syndrome, or Todd syndrome. Much like the first disorder on today's list, Alice in Wonderland syndrome is not officially recognized by the DSM-5 as of the current year. However, its uniqueness definitely necessitates singularity, and while it's categorized by distortion in perception, it differentiates itself from schizophrenia or other perceptual disorders. With Alice in Wonderland syndrome, or AWS, the sufferer experiences visual illusions that are mainly based around distortions of the body, such as expansion and reduction. They may feel as if their body is rapidly growing, which is referred to as macrosomatogenesia, or they may believe that their body is shrinking, which is called microsomatogenesia. This disorder gained its name from the popular book by Lewis Carroll, in which a young girl falls down a rabbit hole and takes part in an assortment of fantastical sights and experiences. This includes seeing her own body grow and then shrink based on certain actions. Thus, this is the commonly used name when people refer to this condition. Treatment for this illness is tenuous at best, with some saying that there is no treatment, and others noting that the only thing one can do is to target the issues which can often lead to this illness, like migraines, brain tumors, temporal lobe epilepsy, and certain infectious diseases. People with AWS are far and few between, but those who do speak out share horror stories of experiences that sound like something straight out of a nightmare, thus leading this disorder to be number 2 on our list today. Number 3. Cotard syndrome, or Cotard's delusion. This delusion has been heralded as one of the most frightening experiences to ever exist. Like the other illnesses mentioned today, this one is not recognized under DSM-5 standards currently as a standalone diagnosis, but can be a resulting delusion from a recognized illness such as schizophrenia. Cotard's delusion is often referred to as walking corpse syndrome, and those who experience it believe that they are dying, have already died, or are otherwise no longer part of the human experience. Holding such a frightening delusion means that people would often refuse to consume food or medication. Some people have reported having hallucinations that further supported the delusion that they were no longer alive, hearing voices or seeing distortions that convinced them of the situation and its dire nature. This delusion can occur not only with psychotic disorders, but also with bouts of severe depression. Because this illness is normally a symptom of a greater and more recognizable diagnosis, treatment can vary greatly and is based upon each case and its presentation. Because of its severely frightening nature, Cotard's syndrome definitely earned its place on today's list. Number 4. Capgras syndrome, or Capgras delusion. Capgras syndrome, like the last illness on today's list, isn't a standalone disorder by DSM-5 standards, but falls under delusional disorders. The main belief with this delusion is that someone near to the sufferer has been irreversibly replaced by an imposter, or is, in essence, somehow, fake. This delusion is categorized by its unshakable nature, defying any logic presented and causing sufferers extreme discomfort, anxiety, and fear. It's theorized that people with Capgras syndrome experience an interruption between categorizing facial features and pairing them with an emotional or personal connection. Often enough, those with neurodegenerative conditions like Alzheimer's disease or dementia can display symptoms of Capgras syndrome as their minds continue to deteriorate. However, it is also noted that symptoms of Capgras syndrome can be present in those with schizophrenia or bipolar disorder, and this statistically makes up the majority of most diagnosed cases. Treatment for this condition varies greatly, relying on other factors to determine the method which is used. Most often, treatment for an overarching condition has the greatest effect versus direct treatment of what may be a symptom of a larger illness. But because of the severe stress that it causes, this condition has earned its place on today's list. Number 5. Apotemnophilia, or body integrity disorder. Once again, this disorder is not currently included in the DSM-5, but can be found in the ICD-11, or the International Classification of Diseases 11th revision. This concerning disorder causes patients to have the undeniable and overwhelming desire to surgically remove or cut away a healthy body part. The impulse to dispose of a certain limb can be so strong that it can lead sufferers to engage in extreme body mutilation in an attempt to irreversibly damage the limb so that it can be properly removed by medical professionals. Unlike most, those with this disorder feel incomplete when seen as a whole, and feel more complete without the limb that this obsessive compulsion targets. Some people may find it alluring to be an amputee or may be attracted to those who are. However, this is not always the case. As of right now, there are no proven effective treatments for people with this disorder, which can cause many sufferers to take things into their own hands, often leading to very serious complications, some even resulting in cessation of life. And while psychotherapy and pharmacotherapy are noted as possible routes of treatment, this is a difficult disorder to mitigate because of the extreme measures that sufferers will go to ease their compulsion. This is a disorder that definitely deserves recognition and understanding, leading it to be the last one mentioned on today's list. Thank you for making it to the end of today's video. Which disorder on today's list struck you as the most strange? Was there an illness that you hadn't heard about until now? Do you know someone with any of these disorders? Let me know in the comments section below. Remember, we're all here to support one another, and the comments section is an open place for people to discuss their thoughts, so long as they do it respectfully. Once again, thank you for watching today's video. This is Miles signing off. I love you all, and stay awesome.